Hey, folks, welcome back to Getting In a College Coach Conversation. We are continuing our discussion around students with physical and learning disabilities with a discussion about the college finance aspect of that equation. And joining me to talk a little bit about some potential scholarships and opportunities for students who have disabilities is my colleague on the finance side, Jennifer Wilcox. Hey, Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for having me today.
Glad to have you.
Look forward to talking about this.
Yeah, I think it's really important stuff. And I think it's a great reminder that there are many scholarships that are out there for students, a variety of different scholarships that are available. And we're talking about some very specific ones here for today. So what I want to ask, we'll start with like a big question, which is what are some of the financial aid resources that students with physical and learning disabilities may want to look into?
Yeah, great question. So when we are talking to and coaching these families, there's kind of three categories outside of the normal state and government-based financial aid that I like these families to focus on. One is really going to be those scholarships that you're talking about. Those are going to be looked at a institutional college level, and then more broadly at an outside level. And we can kind of talk more about that in a minute. And then another resource that I think a lot of families that I talk to don't know about is something called vocational rehabilitation services. That's a federal program that is run at a state level. And then another good option would be looking into a possibility of saving into an account that would be called an ABLE account. So kind of as we go through the topics today, would love to touch on each of these a little more because they are all a little different and have all kind of some different nuances to them.
Yeah, the ABLE account sounds familiar to me, and it might be because it's something that I get asked when I do my taxes about whether I have any funds in an ABLE account. And so I want to start there. I just want to ask that question. Can you define what that is for our listeners so we can understand a little bit better what that program is?
ABLE account was established, I think, in around 2014. It was really first established to help folks who were going to be applying for Medicaid to shelter some of their savings so it wasn't counted in the Medicaid application. And really what it stands for is achieving a better life experience. It's a tax advantage savings account, very similar. I know we hear 529s often. It's very similar setup like that, where it allows families, if they qualify, to put funds into this savings account and then have those earnings be able to be withdrawn tax-free for lots of different reasons that fall into kind of the disability realm. That would be things like college that we're here kind of talking about today. But unlike a 529, it also allows for medical, housing, transportation, and other things. There is a great resource. I always like to say when I'm on calls talking to families, I am for sure not a broker or definitely not an expert in this in any way, shape, or form. So I always like to refer families to a website that might be helpful, and it's ablenrc.org. So it's ABLE, N like Nancy, RC.org. It's a great resource. The IRS website also is a great resource. And then every state has an ABLE account set up, I think, except about 4. So checking kind of with your state agencies to see what is there is going to be good for families who might be looking into this.
So it sounds like a 529 and an ABLE are fairly similar in terms of the contributions and the earnings, but that an ABLE account can be used for a wider range of potential expenses, including those that are medical, that support students with disabilities.
Right. Yep.
Great.
So a lot of families might not know if their student is going into college or not. So an ABLE would allow you to kind of diversify a bit.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really great option for families that are considering those different possibilities. You also mentioned the vocational rehabilitation. Can you tell a little bit more about what that looks like? That's something I'm completely unfamiliar with.
Yeah, great. So vocational rehabilitation, or often referred to as voc rehab, was established, I think, early 1900s for veterans coming back from war, disabled veterans. And then in 1920, it kind of got opened up into folks with disabilities. And what their real goal is to prepare students, young adults, individuals for entering employment. They want to prepare them for it to help them obtain and retain employment. When it comes to kind of the folks that may be listening to this podcast, and when we are counseling our families, what I like to tell folks is that think of voc rehab as kind of a transition between college and or high school and or trade school and college, kind of using it like a bridge. Students are often getting a lot of resources in high school, and then once you get into lifehood or adulthood, oftentimes it's frightening that you're thinking, I'm sending my student out into the world and they're losing all of these wonderful resources. So voc rehab would be something that they may qualify for. If a student is on SSI or SSDI, that enables them to qualify for voc rehab. However, if they're not, that doesn't mean you don't qualify. It just means that you maybe have to reach out to your local state voc rehab office to see about being assessed and possibly qualify. And some of the things that they can help with would be possible job coaching, career assessment, transportation costs. They can help with job placement, and then some possible funding to help pay for college and or trade or technical schools, that kind of post high school training, books, supplies. You can apply for it as early
lots of potential
as
expenses are tagged here, right?
Oh, sorry. What was it?
No, I said it just sounds like there's a lot of potential utilization of this kind of
yes,
definitely across a wide range of space. I wanted to ask you just, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to ask a quick question about scholarships, because I think that this is one of those spaces where it feels like the world is your oyster. As a student, there are so many potential scholarships that students can apply for. We've talked with colleagues in the past about scholarships.com and other databases where you can go and look. What should students with disabilities be thinking about when they're looking for those scholarships that might make a higher education a little more affordable for them?
Yeah, I think searching within the college themselves is going to be great. A couple of colleges that have some well-displayed disability resource and scholarship kind of outlined on their website that I would encourage you to check out, so that way they kind of know what they're looking for, would be the University of Florida, their Disabilities Resource Center. And University of Wisconsin also has the McBurney Disability Resource Center. Those are kind of good from an education college level. And then on the outside scholarship level, either doing a scholarship search through a search engine that would be something like you said, scholarships.com, or going Mary, putting the specifics about yourself into that. And then possibly even doing something as general as an internet search. I think back to a few years ago, I helped a family who, she told me her son had hearing disabilities. And once we more got into it, he actually had cochlear implants while he was in high school and was adjusting to that. So we were able to find a scholarship for him. They applied and it returned a $2,000 investment. So I think anything you can do in searching and trying to kind of find those specifics to your disability and needs is going to be good. And then checking with the disability centers at the colleges and seeing what resources are out there.
That makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of, in our last segment, we talked with Sasha, who just graduated from Brandeis, and how big of an advocate that she is for those who have disabilities. And it's a great reminder that people who are out there with funding, they want to support students to make that path a little bit easier for them. So keep an eye out for those kinds of scholarships. You never know what you might qualify for. Are there any other tips, big, broad tips that you might offer for families as they're looking at financial aid, especially for students with disabilities?
Yeah, I think one big one is that a lot of disabilities come with a lot of extra expenses that colleges, when they're evaluating your ability to pay for college, might not look at. So when your family is applying to college, be sure to reach out to the college financial aid office and sharing some of those things, because depending on what your family's ability to pay for with college is looking like, you may qualify for additional assistance, or the financial aid office might be able to shed some light in helping you to uncover some different resources.
This is a common refrain that I hear from all of my colleagues on the finance side is talk to your financial aid offices. Let them know what is going on for your
Right.
family and what kind of support that you need, because they're real people on the other side of the phone, just like Jennifer here, and they can talk you through
We're your
some of
friend,
the
not your
options.
enemy.
That's exactly right. And that's a great reminder. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know that we got squeezed a little bit because of some of our earlier segments, but I always appreciate the
Yep.
great advice of
Great.
our finance colleagues.
Thank you, Ian. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah, folks, that does it for our show for today. Next week, we are going to start talking about summer because it's spring. And that means, of course, we got to talk about what's coming up in the summer. We'll talk a little bit about summer plans from an admissions perspective. We'll also describe how you can start to create your own project as a high school student, I think, which is a really common question that students are asking us these days. And then summer jobs and saving that money, right? We've always got to put a little bit of that financial aid spin on things as well. So have a wonderful start to your spring. I hope your bracket is still intact if you made your picks this weekend, and we will look forward to seeing you all here again next week.